Hey, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at kind of setting up some UVs. So let's go ahead and start by creating a simple cube. This will sort of demonstrate the basics. Now, go ahead and just click cube on polygons and make a surface. Hit 5 to give you the shaded. And what I'm looking at now is, Alt, left click, move around, obviously. This right here is just a simple object. We're going to go up to Windows, and we will open the rendering editor and Hypershade to get a look at what we have. And we also want to open up the UV texture editor, and this will show us the UVs themselves. Now this is basically how we take a 3D object and we can flatten it, and then we can do whatever to it, right? So it's important to understand this concept. Now because this is a simple primitive cube, it's going to already have a shape to it, and I'll talk more about setting up specific sort of shapes and more about UVing specific shapes later. So for now, just look at it as primitive, and here's what we have. Now right off the bat, we're not really using up all of the space here that we could, because we want to use this whole square. This gray square right here is the max of everything. Like, it's how much resolution we can get. So you want to try and be as efficient as possible, because let's say that I save this out as a 1024 by 1024. It's square, so we get even sizes, right? So 1024 by 1024, and my output's at 72 dpi, so that's not like a lot to work with. It's enough-ish, and you can save other things back in with higher resolution, but you're kind of with this sort of standard. That's why they kind of go up by like 1024 and then 2048 and get sort of higher levels. So let's go ahead and try to make this as efficient as possible. Now, because this is a box, there would be a better way to UV this, but for now, let's just take a look at the UV editor. I'm going to go ahead and click on the UV editor and go to Edge. So if I select all of these edges, you'll see that now, all of my box has kind of been selected. There's pieces selected around the corners here. Alright, and I want to select all these edges in between one another, and then go up here to this little separate UVs, the little scissor tool. I'm going to click that. Alright, and what that does is it'll cut all of these into their own little sort of separate UV sets. So if I now grab UV, and I have a couple options here. I like this way. I like to select the UV and then go to shell. That's, I hold down Control and then I hold down right click on the mouse and I go up to shell. It's just like sort of selecting a lot of things. Like here I can select UV. If I hold down the right click, well, Control plus right click will give me some more options. And I want to go to shell, and you'll notice now that it kind of selects all of this box. Now if you look at it, this box is literally the bottom face of this box. See, it's selected. If I select it here, it'll select there. And if I select here, this one for example, is the back side of the box, right? So that's just how it's spread out. These were connected. Alright. And you can kind of see, I can kind of go on down the list. So let's say I select this one, let's go with all three of these. Then you can see how essentially that was the back, the top, and the front of the box. And then of course this would be the side, right? And this is the other side. See, you can get the idea. This right here is the left side, and this is the right side, and then this is the front of it, this is the top of it, and then this is the back, and this was the bottom, right? So now with a box, we might have a number of different ways we want to do things, but in this case, to maximize UVs, as long as I'm putting the same kind of shader on all of these, let's just go ahead and grab all of my UVs, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to size them up like this. I'm going to grab these, and you can grab all these just by holding down the standard selection tools for Maya. So when I grab multiples, of course, Control and Shift will grab as many as I want, and kind of drag these on out. Yep. Probably best to do it like this. Oh, no, just you. Now there's a cool tool up here you can use. This little arrow key, all these, if I hit the ones that point in the direction, it'll align them. So I want them to align all the way to the right, so this arrow's pointing to the right. Bam, I got these two selected, and it goes to the rightmost point. Same here, they should be fine though. I can grab these, I don't want these. Right, I go down like this, and there you go. I have one of those boxes set up. Right, and let's go ahead and practice that again. Let's set these on up here. Go ahead and drag these on over here. Drag these on down here. And I can align these all up in a moment. There's also another way. You could grab them to shell, and you could sort of just center it, and then you could just upsize it. Like that. That works pretty nicely. So then I could, well, I might as well at that point then take them all, right? And set them all in the middle here. Right, and then go ahead and select all of them, and then, oops, make sure to hold it down so they all go up. Hold down the left click so they all go up at the same time. There you go. Now they're all sitting here, right? So I'll just go through this process where I select these two. Remember, hotkeys, W is the move, E is rotate, R is scale. These are the same keys. We've been over them already in earlier tutorials, but this tutorial, there you go, just keep it in mind. So let's go ahead and offset them. Go back over here and offset them. Go up top and offset them up. Go on down, select all of them down, offset them down. Bam, they're all exactly the same. Alright? And there's a way to test that, is if we go back to our hypershade, we'll go ahead and make a little Lambert and hold down right button and rename. I'm just renaming this. I want it to be called like a test shader. Right? So there's my little test shader, and I'll go ahead and select on the color, and I'm just going to give it a checker. There are better ones on the internet that you can get a hold of. We'll talk more about that later, but the checker one works nicely. So now if I select my object and the box and I right click on my test shader, I can assign the material selection to it. I can hit 6 on the keyboard and see my checkers. And note how they are all, there's F key, they are all pretty much nicely square. So you know that they've all kind of laid out fairly decently. And that means that they're not going to stretch, they're not going to get any weird stretching textures or anything. You've got a nice little even setup. We can go back to my UV editor. I can go up to polygons now. Oh, notice that the texture does show up now in my UV texture editor. You can control that by kind of dimming the image, or you could even turn it off. This little texture button will do it. Display image on off. So you can kind of dim it so that you can still see your lines. Sometimes they get really hard to see. I'm gonna go ahead, just double check. Okay, good. All right. So object mode, I'll select my object. Make sure to select this object, as it wants to know which one you want to export. So we'll go to polygons, and I go all the way down to UV snapshot. It's the very last. And when I hit UV snapshot, I'm going to get a whole little document set up here. And right now it's saying, well, where do you want to take it? Maya projects? Or what? Well, I set for 2048. That's good. JPEG is fine. PNG is better. PNG is much better. So let's select PNG. Same UV range. Okay. Now when you hit browse, you should automatically, if you've set your project, I didn't set a project for this, I'm going to default projects right now, but if you set your project, it will go here. This is an example of wanting to learn how to set your project properly so that everything gets put in the proper folders. So that's okay. I'm going to go with just images is fine, and from tool settings is fine, and you can name it now whatever, and I'm just going to call it test box texture and UV. I like to put UVs on them so I know that it's a UV test texture, because you're going to kind of dispose of this eventually anyway. You don't need the UVs, but you want them initially. So let's go ahead and hit save there, and it'll save it out.